Hey, everybody. Are you with me when I say life can be amazing at times, but it can also be extremely challenging? I know, I've been there myself, learned some valuable life lessons along the way, and now I'm here to help you. It's no coincidence you found your way to the Relevate podcast. I'm your host, Rena Olson, a self-proclaimed inspirer of others. Together, we're going to dive deep into raw and honest conversations with real people. My hope is that through these stories, you too will be inspired and ready to tackle whatever's holding you back or breaking your heart. Then you'll be free to live a life of purpose and true fulfillment. I promise it's possible. Let's Relevate. Hey friends, welcome to the Relevate podcast. We are switching it up this episode with a true hero story, straight from my town of Alpharetta, Georgia. This conversation is about two heroes, actually, the dynamic duo of Sergeant Mark Tappan of the Alpharetta Police Department and his canine partner, Mattis. You can check them out on A&E's fantastic new series, America's Top Dog, a Ninja Warrior-style competition for top canine cops and civilian dogs and their handlers as they compete nose-to-nose on the ultimate canine obstacle course. Tappan and Mattis are featured on episode 4 of America's Top Dog. And hopefully they'll also be in the finale, which airs March 18th on A&E. In preparing for this interview, Tappan asked if I wanted Mattis there. Yes, Sergeant. It was my first time to be in the presence of a police canine, and I wasn't sure what to expect. I knew he was a very large and intimidating-looking black German Shepherd with a titanium tooth. What I didn't know is that Mattis is an absolute sweetheart and that we would be fast friends before the recording of the episode was even over. There is so much jam-packed in this episode about faith, the role canines can serve in bridge building between police departments and civilians, Mattis's heroics and near-death experience, and the dynamic duo's time on America's Top Dog. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Sergeant Tappan and Mattis, welcome to the Relevate podcast.
Well, thanks so much for having us.
Well, I just appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule as a law enforcement officer and leader of the canine unit here in Alpharetta. That's very cool.
Well, thank you. I'm a little broken right now anyway, so I'm on the shelf. I got a torn ACL that I'm recovering from, so they don't want me doing much.
Well, that stinks. Well, I am sorry to hear that. So if we can start, if you can just tell me a little bit about yourself. I think I heard you say you were a pastor at one point, or a minister.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Well, it depends on how deep you want to dive into my past, but I grew up in Louisiana. And
what part?
In Mandeville, Louisiana, if you're familiar with that. It's on the north shore of Lake Pontchartrain, so just north of New Orleans.
You don't have that accent at all.
Well...
Did you used to?
No, I never did. I don't think I ever did. Mm-hmm. There's sometimes when I get around people who kind of talk with a New Orleans accent, I might say some things, but I don't think I speak too much like the New Orleanians.
I wouldn't pick up on that at all.
Yeah. Actually, I was born in Tennessee, so I have a Tennessee-New Orleans mix, and a lot of people say that I don't have an accent. But anyway, I grew up there. I was my dreams for life. It's kind of relevant to what we're talking about is I wanted to be a game show host. Yeah, I wanted to be a game show host, but wasn't that awesome. Studious and didn't have a lot of self-discipline. I lacked a lot of...
Why a game show host?
I don't know. I guess I don't know. I liked attention. I like to have fun. Yeah, so those types of things. But I think I wanted to take the easy road too. And not that being a game show, to any game show hosts out there, listen to your podcast. Not that it's easy to be a game show host. I realize that it's like less than 1% of the population get to do. So that's a very high level.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't have high expectations of myself. I didn't have any discipline and kind of was wandering through life like a rudderless ship, I tell people, in college, and I was failing out. And the only thing that actually was keeping me above water was the fact that I was taking lots of PE courses. So in 2 semesters, I had taken tennis, Aikido, bowling, and I think running in 2 semesters. And that's the only reason that I wasn't just flat out failing college. So I realized in my life that I needed to get some actual self-responsibility, some discipline. I needed to mature a little bit. And there's a person that I admire a lot in my life, my uncle, and he's a former Marine, and he is one of the most generous, hardworking men of character that I had ever been around. And he attributed a lot of that to the Marine Corps. Sure. And so without telling my parents or doing anything else, I signed up for the Marine Corps because I knew it was something I needed. And it started a journey in my life that brought me to where I am. So that's where you're getting the long version right now. But I actually got saved when I was in the Marine Corps, which was cool. I grew up in the South and in a place where everyone goes to church. You know, what happened was when I was in the Marine Corps, a lot of my hypocrisy of what I said I believed and what I did was exposed. Mattis, come here.
He's good.
He got drool all over you. My big trained attack dog is cuddling right now. I love it.
I love it too.
Yeah. But anyway, a lot of my hypocrisy was exposed when I was in the Marine Corps. So I actually gave my life to Jesus. And
Sweet.
Yeah, I think so.
While you were in the
While I was in the Marine Corps. And through that, I got involved in a church. And I was about to get out of the Marine Corps and really considering what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to Bible college or just different options. And my original intent when I went into the Marine Corps was not only to give me the self-discipline, but give me some life skills so I could go into law enforcement. Because I've always had a strong sense of justice. I like fairness. Yes. I love our country. I love our Constitution. I'm really an altruist. And I like the fact that I can stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves. Nice. So that's why I went to the Marine Corps, and I was hoping to turn that into a law enforcement career. But like I said, I got saved, started volunteering at a church and a youth group, and that kind of turned into, why don't you come work at the church when you get out? And as an intern, and I started working as an intern. Intern grew into junior high pastor turned into high school pastor turned into student ministries director. And so for 10 years of my life, I did that. And I say it was really, if you look back on my life and just see kind of all the puzzle pieces, it was good because I wouldn't have been ready for police work coming right out of the Marine Corps. I think I was too immature still. And Mattis, come here. He wants attention.
We're friends now.
Yes, you are. So I grew a lot being a youth pastor, obviously. It taught me a lot about people and their issues and gave me communication skills that I needed, I think, to be a police officer and the maturity that I lacked. So that brought me we went through some struggles as a church, and there was a church split and a lot of pain and things that happened. And I said, maybe this is the time that I get back into law enforcement. And my sister lived in the Atlanta area, and she said, you should put in for Alpharetta. So it was the only place I put in for. Wow. And I got hired. Here I am.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So with being a Marine and pastor experience, that got you that interview.
Yep. I think it prepared me perfectly, too. Like a lot of people say, well, it's a big jump going from pastor to law enforcement, but I really don't think it is. And my compassion actually grew as a law enforcement officer, because a lot of times when you're in the church, everyone is saved and puts on the face of everything's perfect and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
And then when you come into police work, you see everyone is broken, and there's tons of opportunity just to shine in that atmosphere, because people are a lot more, you're catching them at very real points of their life.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and a lot of that, I think, is fear. And to have someone respond who is compassionate of their situation, I think is just so important.
Yeah.
So, good job. So. I mean, I think we have a top-notch police force around here. And
I agree.
Yeah. So did you have dogs growing up?
I did. My dad used to field train labs growing up. So I was always around working dogs that were extremely intelligent.
Like bird dogs? He'd train them to hunt?
Yep, because he loved to hunt. And then I had my own dog who my dad used to say, who trained dogs and was really good at training dogs. He used to say the dog that I had, which was it was a Spitz, and his name was Sylvester. And he said he thought it had some mental issues because he couldn't train it to do anything. And that was the dog would only listen to me.
They're kind of white and fluffy, aren't they?
They're white and fluffy, and he had an attitude. Like he was tiny.
But y'all were bros.
We
right?
were, yeah. That was my buddy.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So when you landed here in Alpharetta, I guess it took you a while to find your way to the K-9 unit. If you can just kind of help us understand what that trajectory looked like.
Yeah. So got into police work, and I absolutely loved it. The first thing I started doing, probably about a year and a half into my career, was I went into SWAT. And so I did SWAT for about 5.5, 6 years. And loved it because I I like being on the cutting edge. I like being on the front line, and was doing that. But I realized something. We do a lot of public demonstrations being on SWAT. Mattis. And we'd set up these awesome displays with all of our gear, like body armor, guns, and less lethal options, and robots, and just amazing capabilities that we have as a police force that you'd see as, wow, I can't believe that we can do this. And then the canine guy would pull up with him and his dog.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And everyone would flock to the canine unit. And it's not like a jealousy thing, but I realized what an amazing bridge that was between the community, because people see a dog and automatically they can relate to you.
Sure.
Where I think with the uniform and the things that we do, and maybe society and media, I don't know, but there's a barrier between police officers and people a lot of times. And so without a dog, people won't talk to you, but you put a dog into the equation and it creates a bridge. And I love that. And so I started thinking, I already love dogs, and I was fascinated by the capabilities that they had and how they could help out in police work. Their olfactory systems, the way their nose works is incredible. But that extra bridge was something that I said, that's something that we should be able to take advantage of, and we should really try to put an emphasis on. And so dogs don't become available often, because if you're in the unit, you're kind of grandfathered in, and you get the right of first refusal. If a dog retires or a spot opens up, you get the chance to have that dog.
Wow.
But,
so how big, just for perspective, how big is our city, and how many canines do we have?
Well, we have about 110 sworn officers. We have 5 canine teams right now. We have 5 what we call dual-purpose narcotics dogs. Tech narcotics, obviously. They do tracking, article search, apprehension, and protection. And then we have 1 kind of single-purpose, cute little Raider, who's a 35-pound lab. I say kind of single-purpose because Phil's put a lot of time into her, and she also does tracking now as well. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, but not the apprehension and protection, because she's too small and cute.
She is so small and cute. I saw her at the Dillard's New Year's Day shoe sale too.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, she likes shoes.
So she was keeping those ladies.
That's right.
Keeping those people in line.
Absolutely.
Okay, sorry. So we were just talking about your transition to
and so a spot opened up on canine, which doesn't happen often. And I had been at the department for, I think, about 6 years, and been on SWAT for a long time and loved it. But like I said, I saw this opportunity. I remember talking to my dad, who field trained labs, and he said, well, you're not getting any younger, and it'd be nice. Dad. Yeah, right? He's like, it'd be nice if someone else could do the running for you. And I'm like, that's a great point. It's true. So anyway, I put in for it and ended up getting the spot.
Nice. So I would think the 2 roles that you've served in, SWAT and now canine, there's a lot of physicality to that.
Yes.
And that you have to really work on staying in shape, right?
Definitely. Yep, I do. Especially
to keep up with this guy.
Oh my! Well, I know we'll get to the show. The hardest part of the show was trying to keep up with him.
Well, I think you did a good job.
Oh well, thank you.
Yeah, he's quite the athlete. Okay, so you switched and you went to work in the canine unit. Did you get a dog that somebody else had?
I did. His name was Nico, and at the time I got him, Nico, I believe was probably 3 years old, and he was a German Shepherd like Mattis, but not quite the size of Mattis. We developed a great bond, loved that dog. He actually ended up going blind in his left eye, so it made it unsafe for him to continue as a police dog. So he retired when he was about 6.5 years old.
Wow. So is that hard for a dog to, because I guess, did he go from that officer's family to your family?
He did. Yeah, it's a lot of transition.
Yeah.
It really is. Nico did well, and Shepherds, as typical, they're super loyal dogs, so they build a bond. And so it makes it a little bit harder when they leave one family and go to another family. That's why we try to, like I said, with the unit, is you get the right to keep the dog or get the next dog. You stay in canine for a long time, typically, because of that bond.
Oh, yeah, I can see it. Wife and kids came along at some point.
Yeah.
And
they were already there when I was in canine.
Okay. And because, I mean, it's like you add another member to the family.
Oh, for sure.
When you have a canine in the family. Let's talk a little bit about what that looks like, because I've seen some pictures of Mattis with your daughter, and it's just impossibly cute.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, it's a training philosophy that I have, and it's some police departments, and they do it to success, but they have the expectancy that a dog is just a tool. And so the dog goes to work. He's in the back of the car, gets out for work-related items, and uses the restroom for breaks and whatever, goes home, gets put in a kennel, and the only interaction ever has is just as a work tool. I have seen in the sport world that there's a lot of these amazing dogs that can do all the odor work, they can do the protection work, they can do the tracking work, they can do everything, but they're brought into families and they act as a member of the family as well, and they're still proficient at the jobs that they do. Especially going back to the whole way that I saw canine is at least 1/3 of our job is community relations because it creates that bridge. So why not have dogs that can interact with people? Sure. And so if you want to do that, it takes a lot more training, and it means socializing the dogs to be able to do it. So first, we try to pick dogs that are happy, social, and confident. We bring them into the house with those attributes. That's the first thing I look for in a working dog. Happy, social, confident. Not doing it out of fear. It's not a mean streak. They're confident about who they are. They know their role, that they're their protector, and they're good with it. And then,
so are they trained at that point when you're looking for those qualities, or is it a process when they're like puppies?
Well, it's kind of a both. I'm looking for the happy, social, confident is a God-given type thing that I'm looking for. And actually, when I go and test dogs, I'm trying to see what instinctual type things they already have programmed into them, not necessarily what training they have on them.
Right.
Because training can be deceptive. But the God-given qualities, those will tell you the type of dog that you want. And so, like with him, I actually didn't want a dog that was quite as big as him, but he was so good I couldn't pass him up. He was one that he was super happy. He was so social, confident. Like he had all these things that were going for him. I was like, that's the dog that I want.
So how old was he when you first saw him?
2. He was 2 years old. Yep. And he just blew my socks off with all the tests that I put him through. So, but going back to the family thing is I knew that if we wanted to have those dogs that were approachable, that we could use them as a bridge with the community, that we had to be sure that we introduce them to families, kids, any social, large crowds, whatever we possibly can, so that people can interact with our dogs.
That's very cool. Yeah, so I did leadership for Scythe, and they did the demonstration with the dogs. And I mean, I think their dogs are not approachable.
Right.
I was like, they just didn't seem to be socialized like this. So
yeah, and so
different philosophy.
The argument against it is that he's not going to be proficient at his job. But Mattis actually has more apprehensions than any dog combined in the city of Alpharetta ever. Wow. So if you take all the bites that dogs have had, and the reason is not because I'm just out there looking to bite people all the time, but I can take him anywhere. And so a lot of those dogs that aren't very social, you can't take into large crowds, or you can't take into certain calls because they could just go off at any time.
Right.
I tell people it's like having a taser that could just explode at any moment and tase someone around you.
Yeah.
I don't want that. I want a stable, level-headed dog that I can take into any situation, and it might be kids are hanging on him 1 second, and then I say a word, and he has to go apprehend a really bad guy.
And he can just make that switch
seamlessly.
He can. That's super cool. Yeah, I've seen a picture of him in a pink tutu.
Yes. Yeah.
Courtesy of your daughter.
Yeah, he will do anything for that toy. So he tolerates a lot of the stuff that I put him through.
And he's like a TikTok video famous too.
Yeah, that was kind of by mistake. TikTok's fun.
So fun. Yeah, so one thing I loved in watching you on the show was just the love you have for this dog. I mean, not only were y'all magnificent together, but that just came through. And I'm a dog person, and my sister says we have, you know, when you watch the Westminster Dog Show, we have like the worthless breeds. I've had a poodle, I've had a Bichon, I've had a Maltese, and I have a golden doodle now. But they are my heart. I mean, I love them so much. So I can't imagine to take that type of relationship that most people have, dog owner, and then add this layer to it, where you're literally partners and you're dependent on each other for survival at times. I mean, how do you even describe what that's like?
It's really hard. It's really hard. Like you said, the bond between a person and their pet is huge. But then he is with me every day, 24/7, more than any person on the planet. He listens to all my whines and gripes when I'm driving around, when is usually I have all my whines and gripes is when I'm in the car.
And so you talk to him?
Right. Oh, I talk to him all the time. I miss him when he's not there. Like if he has to go get a bath or something and he's not in the car, it's not the same. I don't like going to work without him. So he really is my best friend. And then you add in the fact, like you said, that he's a partner, and he has done incredibly heroic things that have gotten him hurt even because I asked him to, because that's the kind of partner he is. It's incredible. And I would do the same for him, and I have done the same for him, and he's done it for me. And it's just an inexplicable bond. It's the best job in the world. They let me play with a dog for a living, and I don't ever want to stop doing it.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, because he is decorated.
Yeah.
He has a Purple Heart and a titanium tooth. Right?
Yeah, the titanium tooth was just, it was a training accident, and it kind of speaks to how smart he is. He chipped it the first week of training, and they said, oh, we'll replace the dog. I was like, no way. That dog is amazing.
Yeah.
Let's replace the tooth. So that's what they did, but it also meant that he wouldn't be able to train with the other dogs during the week. I was taking him home on the weekends, and so that's the only time I could work with him on odor work, because he couldn't get rewarded, because they didn't want him like biting a ball like he's doing right now, because it could hurt the tooth more, and it hadn't set in place. So because of that, I did all of his odor training, and when we got to the end of the class, they do a certification. He was the only one that passed on the first. And it's not saying I'm a great trainer. It's how quick this dog's learning curve is, and just how driven and amazing he is. So that's the titanium tooth.
It makes him look very tough, though.
What's that?
It makes him look very tough.
Right?
When you see that little...
People say I should add some more bling to it, like put some diamond on it or something like that. But anyway. Yeah, but the Purple Heart was, it's an interesting story, because it's something that I feel like I didn't mess up, but I feel responsible for what happened. And he did an amazing job through it all. And so what it was we were driving, and some guys took off on us. It turned out they had robbed several people, which we found out on the backside. But when they bailed out of a car, I kind of knew the area and knew where they were going, and I cut them off with Mattis, and I hit my door popper, which flings his door open, and it tells him that, hey, right now, you just run beside me. And so that's what he was doing, was he was running beside me, and the guy was running straight at us. We'd cut off his route of escape. And so he saw us, and he jumped over this retaining wall. And I thought the retaining wall, because I had been back in this area before, at places it's only about 10 feet high. When I started to jump, I saw that the guy was still falling. So it was higher than 10 feet. And I instinctually grabbed back and grabbed on so that I didn't fall. But out of the corner of my eye, I saw Mattis falling through the air, just frozen in time. I recall like his paw position, his ears, his eyes as he was falling, and my heart just stopped. I thought I was about to lose my buddy. As he was falling, and at the time we'd only been together for a few months too. Like we had just gotten back from school. I knew how amazing this dog was. He was fearless, obviously, because he just jumped off. Mattis. I say, like, when you talk to a handler, it's like we have Tourette's. We just start yelling Dutch words every once in a while, or German words. So anyway, so he's falling through the air. And so much was going through my mind. And it really is like if you talk to people in certain moments, everything goes in slow motion, time stands still, and that's exactly what happened. I can remember all the things that I was thinking, the horrors. I thought I had hurt my dog. He was going to die. I thought even if he doesn't die, he's going to be just traumatically affected from this mentally, so that he's not going to be good at his work. And like all these things are going through. But the biggest thing was this is my buddy, and he's falling. And it was the hardest thing in the world. He actually landed on the guy.
Because there's absolutely nothing you can do at this point.
Nothing. And I'm sitting there debating with myself, do I fling myself off? And I'm wearing 40 pounds of gear just as a police officer. And I'm considering throwing myself off just so I can get down to take care of my dog.
As quick as possible.
But it was one that I'm like, I knew the height. Like it's one of those that I'm not exaggerating. It's 30 feet high. And I knew every bone in my body is going to break if I do this. Like I'm going to be dead, and I won't be able to take care of him anyway. So he landed, and he looked up on me, which made me feel good. And then I told him to lay down.
So were you just like looking over the wall to see what was going to happen?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it felt like an eternity as he's falling. In reality, it's probably 2 seconds. Yeah. But he hits the ground, and he looks at me, because he's not on a bite command. So he didn't just start annihilating the guy. He just looks up at me. And so I tell him to lay down, and I tell the guy, if you move, my dog's going to bite you. He didn't move. It took us a few minutes to get down there, and I checked Mattis out, because they were getting into a foot chase with another guy, and they were calling for Mattis to come over and help there too. And so I checked him out structurally, and he wasn't showing any sensitivity. And so we go over to where the other guy's running. We actually catch up and pass all these other police officers in a foot pursuit. They see Mattis, and they give up, which is perfect. But then Mattis just collapsed.
Oh, my God.
He started, like, bleeding internally, and, like, he was pooping blood. Like, it was not a pretty thing. And it was just, like, you can put me into any situation where chaos is going on around me, but when you did it to my dog, I was just, it was like panic.
Yeah.
I like didn't know what to do. They had everything under control at the scene, and I said, I got to get him to the vet. I threw on lights and sirens, and I flew down to the emergency vet off of Mansell Road. They couldn't like manipulate him, pick him up and stuff. They didn't have a vet tech that was big enough that could handle him, and so they asked me to come back, and we took him in for, I think it was an MRI. Because they didn't see anything on the X-ray. And so we go in for the MRI, and I'm holding him there, and I remember the words of the vet. He says, we need to get him into surgery right away, which are not words that you want to hear as his handler and his friend. He had a lacerated liver, and he was bleeding internally, and they weren't sure if he was going to make it or not. The great thing was actually my department had put something out on social media, and there was tons of people just praying for him and all this other stuff when this was happening. By the time the vet got him open, the blood had actually coagulated, and he had stopped bleeding internally. So it was miraculous, and they were able to stitch him back up. And
So he didn't have to have any repair work?
No repair work. It was basically they opened him up, saw that he was okay. They actually saw that there was a piece of a tennis ball in his tummy because he had torn it apart, and so they took that out. And they said, you can't let him get into tennis balls. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like. Okay, it is bad. Don't let your dogs eat tennis balls. So they stitched him back up, but I was still worried. I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to work again because, like I said, the healing process, or more importantly, really mentally, it could affect him. Like he might be scared of heights, and he can't be scared of heights. Like he can't do this job and have certain fears. So it was funny. I took him to our vet that we use, Alpharetta Animal Hospital over there. And they said, we want to watch him for just overnight because this was the emergency vet. I took him, I think, after 2 days where I sat with him the whole time. After 2 days, I took him over to Alpharetta Animal Hospital on the Monday morning. And they said, leave him with us so we can watch him, make sure that he's okay. And so I left him in the morning at about 10 o'clock. At about 11 o'clock, they called me back up. They said, you got to come get him. He's going nuts without you. They said he's going to rip his stitches out. So I had to drive back to the vet. And it's kind of funny. There's a reunion video of us like... And we had literally only been apart for like 1 hour, but he just comes out and he was so happy to see me, and I was so happy to see him. And I knew that I was going to be able to take him home. So that was a big moment. Then the other big moment, and I really haven't talked about this other places, was just when I got him back to work and I started testing him and saw that he was absolutely fine. He's still scared of nothing. And I knew that he was going to be able to continue at his work, and that made me really happy.
Wow. So how long did it take for him to heal from
1 month. After all that, 1 month, and he was back on full duty.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess I know the liver regenerates itself in people. Does it do that with dogs, too?
I suppose it does.
That's amazing. Mattis.
Because he's shown no indications of any kind of injury ever in his life.
That is just... And so how does the Purple Heart thing come about?
Well, and so from that, someone in the department nominated him for an award, and he ended up winning for his service because he got injured in an act of valor doing his duties. And so they figured... that even though it had never been done before, that warranted a Purple Heart, our departmental Purple Heart. So they gave that to him. He and I ended up winning Officer of the Year that year.
Cool.
And the Director's Award. So it's really a testament really to his bravery, though, because like I said, going back to it, I feel like I screwed up. Like I didn't have him on leash. I could have made better decisions. Like it was one of those things that I feel like I screwed up, but he picks up my slack, which is what happens throughout our career a lot. That's
what your partner does.
That's what he does. He makes me look a lot better than I am.
Oh, very cool. Okay, so let's switch gears and talk about America's Top Dog, which is the Ninja Warrior style competition for police canines and their handlers now on A&E Network. So was there an application process? Did you get an invitation? How did this all come about?
Well, it was actually a lot of it was through my Instagram platform. Someone else recommended me for the show because they were taking applications and looking for people to compete, which I didn't even know about. And then a friend of ours through Instagram was interviewing to be on the show, and they said, you should really talk to Mark and Mattis. So they ended up calling me up and said, hey, is this something you'd be interested in? And I said, absolutely. And so we started doing Skype interviews, and they were talking to us and seeing if we'd be a good fit.
Nice. So going in, were you, because I feel that you're probably a pretty competitive person.
Isn't that obvious?
Are you going in to win it, or is it really for the experience and again, more bridge building for?
I am extremely competitive. One of my friends said that I'm the most competitive person he knows. That's when we were on SWAT, and there's a lot of competitive people on SWAT. Yeah. So I'm extremely competitive, but with this, and I think with a lot of the handlers that were on the show, they love and believe in their dogs so much that I really want to show off how amazing I think he is. And so it was an opportunity to do that. So I know I wanted to give my best because I know how amazing he is. So that was the approach that I took, was let's give everything I have because he deserves it. And he did the same for me and does every day that I go to work with him.
Yeah. So what was it like? So you get selected for the show and you've had the initial competition, or is the whole thing done?
Whole thing is finished.
Oh.
Yep.
So I'm not even going to ask you what the outcome is.
You can't.
I can't.
Well, I guess you could, but I can't say anything.
So let's talk about your episode. Okay. And it just looked like y'all had so much fun.
Oh, it was a blast. It's kind of funny. They kind of show us, like, we get to see everyone else compete, and I had no idea. Like, I was actually, in my episode, they showed me going first. I actually was fourth or fifth. So I was the last one to go in my round, so I didn't get to see anyone else compete. It was just, that's the way it fell.
Yeah.
So second round, I went last. Third round, this is out, so I can tell you, I went last as well. So I didn't get to see anyone else compete. And you're not out there where you can actually see their course run. You don't know times. You know nothing. And so it's really go out there, and I thought I had to give everything I had to, which I would have done anyway.
Sure.
But I also knew we were showed as episode 4, but when we shot, we were episode 10. And there's 10 episodes in the regular season, and then a finale. They already had people in for the finale to film the next day. And so I knew if I wanted to make the finale, it looked like they already had a full roster. So if I wanted to be in the finale, I better do something amazing. So that was kind of my approach to it, is let's be amazing. Not saying whether I made the finale or not, but that's what my take was let's go in there and do the absolute best that we can.
Wow. So so the first time you were on the course, that was the first time you had seen it, right?
Correct.
Or did you get like a walkthrough?
They gave you kind of like a PowerPoint that had some rough drawings of their ideas, but it wasn't anything to spec. There was no specifics at all. So you kind of went in a little bit blind.
Yeah. Wow. And just the faith of your dog and the trust that Mattis was going to do his thing.
Yeah. Well, I knew that, for instance, the last thing in round 1 is splashdown, where you have to jump into a pool. And I knew that in certain situations he's fine with that, but he won't just jump into a pool. So ahead of time with the PowerPoint, they said, okay, this is the last part. We did a lot of training to make sure that he would like the water, and now he absolutely loves the water. He sees it. We actually did a couple weeks ago.
That was such a moment when y'all hit the water. I was like, oh my gosh.
Well, I knew too that he's a lot more enthusiastic if I go in too. Yeah. So that's kind of why we did that. But we just did a polar plunge a couple weeks ago. It happened to be the only day that it snowed in the city of Alpharetta, like in 2 years, and it was coming down hard. That was the day of our polar plunge. He just loves the water now. He just goes in it. It's cold. He doesn't care. So he loves the water now.
That's very cool. Yeah. Okay, so does the course change?
A little bit. They always add a different element, it seems. Like my episode, the third wall, when they first showed it to us, it was a 3, a 4, and a 5 foot wall that we're going to have to jump. So they give you like one run on the course, And we went out and did the one run on the course. And this is actually why Mattis slows down at the 5-foot wall, is because he had been jump, and just flying over them, doing awesome on all the walls. And then we got to the last wall, and right before, they're like, you know what, we're changing up the third wall. We're making it instead of jump over a 5-foot, you have to go under it. And I was like, And so with a dog, like, it's easy for me to adapt, but for a dog, he's like, wait, we've jumped every time. So if you saw a little hesitation in him, that's why. But they try to throw in usually with the walls, they made something different. They'd also, if you notice, if you pay close attention, the order of the cars in the front side, they always mix that up.
Oh, no, I missed that. Yeah, well, it was so fun to watch, and he is so beautiful on camera.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, he's a good-looking dog.
He's just, I mean, I just kept saying he is so magnificent. I mean, he's just really, really such a, and a lot of times the black dogs, you can't really see their beauty because they kind of, you can't see him, but with him, you can. He's just so shiny and
he is
handsome.
He is.
Jeez.
I didn't pick him because he's beautiful, but it doesn't hurt.
So in your words, how would you describe the competition, America's Top Dog?
A blast. I showed up, and you're kind of, just as a police officer, you're skeptical about everything that you go into for the most part. And so I was like, this is, I wonder if the obstacles are going to be good or whatever. I loved it. I absolutely loved every element that they had. I thought it really displayed the relationship between you and your dog. And I think that's what they were going for.
Yeah.
Was more than anything else. Not is he just good at his job, but what kind of bond do you have? Because that's what makes you successful as a police officer, is developing that bond. So I like the way that the course was set up, because there was elements in there like fire escape, which is after the car slalom. The fire escape where the ball is hanging down from a little ramp and they have to grab the ball. That's never happened in our life, right? That we go up to an attic and I have to have him open it up, or a fire escape and he has to do it. But it does show how quick he can learn things, how good our communication is, and what kind of drives he has. So I loved that element. It was so cool because if you saw, he actually came in real hot and missed it the first time, but he knew exactly what I wanted him to do. And so it was cool. And I like that about the course. The first round, it's that relationship. The second round, you have to be able to read your dog really well. It's called the boneyard. It's where they have different odors. In our case, it happened to be narcotics, in this 3,000 square foot house that they built out of wood pallets in the middle of like this canyon. So it's windy and crazy. Cameramen are running around all over the place. It's a picture they've never seen before. And it's a harder standard than we train to, even as a police standard, like national certifications and stuff. A lot of times if a dog alerts, I'll say it's in this area. They want the specific item that it's in. So like a lot of times you were like, oh, why'd they pick that? Like, we're used to a proximity type alert, and they're getting specific where they had to find this one item. And like I said, all these distractions. And that was a great equalizer, because it didn't matter how athletic you are. It matters how good is his nose and how good am I to be able to read him. So I like that. Once again, it's all about that relationship and bond. And then the third is just, man, can you keep up with your dog?
Yeah.
And I was trying.
Yeah, it's such a fun show to watch. So when is the finale?
I think the finale is March 18th.
March 18th.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll definitely be promoting that. And your episode, you can watch it on demand. It's on A&E, correct?
Episode 4.
Okay, up 4. Very cool. So I think it's such a celebration of your craft.
Yeah.
The craft of the sport of police canines, because we don't, where else do civilians get to see these magnificent dogs in action? So.
Right, and one of the things too, like you said, one of the greatest things, it is a celebration, and I hope too, like I told you, kind of our different approach is how I socialize this dog, and I have him out all over the place, but still he can be successful at all these job-related elements, and so hopefully it shows other police officers, hey, this is something we can take advantage of. His dogs are a great tool to reach the community. People are interested. Have a dog that instead of, can we pet him? My answer is absolutely.
Absolutely.
I would love for you to.
Well, and he's quite the social media star now.
Yeah, well, he is.
Cracks me up.
Well, thank you.
I bet you picked up a few followers with this show too.
Yeah, we did.
Well, and it's great for our city.
Yeah.
It really is. It's just so positive and so many elements.
Well, we like being that.
Very good. So the word relevate, it's a real word. It means to uplift or inspire. So Sergeant Tappan, how would you, just in closing, what words of inspiration do you have for my listeners as it relates to kind of what you do and the bridges you were hoping to build to make our world a better and safer place?
Yeah, well, I would say really two things. And one, I tell my kids both, find something that you're passionate about. And then the second part of that is find something you're passionate about and that you love what you do, right? So you have that part of it. And then the second part of it is it's a verse that changed my mind, or changed my world, really. It was Colossians 3:23, and it says, everything you do, do it with all your heart as if working for the Lord, not for men. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I have these coins that I put in, or I give out to, like, kids and stuff that I come in contact with, and it says, give all you got, then give more. That's how I live my life is I want, at the end of the day, is I want to be a great reflection of Jesus in everything that I do. And it's the mundane, it's the chaotic, it's the everyday stuff, the heroic stuff, whether it's washing dishes or setting up chairs or it's rescuing people from a car wreck, whatever it is, or doing a TV show, whatever it is do it with everything that you have, because people are always watching. You can always inspire someone. The way that you treat people, the way that you act, the way that you talk, it means something. Every single person that you come in contact with is an opportunity to shine. And so take advantage of that.
That's awesome. Great words of advice. Well, we're going to be watching on March 18th, and we're going to be pulling for your team.
If I'm in it, hopefully I'll make the finals.
Well, how could you not with that amazing creature by your side?
I hope so.
Thanch you so much for your time today.
My pleasure.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Oh, does Mattis, can he say a few words?
Yeah. Mattis, los. Belen. Oh, that's a good boy.
That's a good boy, Mattis. Well, how fun was that? I encourage you to tune in and watch episode 4 to see Sergeant Tappan and Mattis in action, and then watch all of the episodes. And don't miss that finale on March 18th. See the episode notes for links on more information about Tappan, Mattis, and America's Top Dog. I'm sure you probably know that God, spelled backward as dog, can't help but believe that dogs are indeed heaven sent. Their relentless devotion and love they have for their masters and their comforting presence, I think it's akin to the love God has for each and every one of us. The intelligence and physical capability of dogs and their ability to be trained at this highest level, as seen on America's Top Dog, is truly something to behold. I'm Rena Olson, and this is Relevate.